say that Perth is the most isolated city in the world, but if you want to see isolation, you want to come out here to the Pilbara region of Western Australia. That's isolation. You know, it's interesting, we've actually all been isolated all over the world. The 2020 COVID-19 pandemic has closed doors everywhere. Even church doors have been closed. And I've been thinking about Jesus. He went into the desert, he went into isolation for 40 days and 40 nights before he started his public ministry. It was like a preparation time before what was going to become one of the most momentous events in history. I'm really curious to see how the church has dealt with this period of isolation, to see if we've been able to use this as a significant time of preparation for us. And I've been talking to lots of people, and I'd like to invite you to listen in to what they had to say.
It was about October last year where I had this feeling that we were in something of a rut and something of just a routine. And as I was praying about it, I had this picture in my mind of, when your computer gets laggy and gets run down, you sort of turn it off and you turn it back on and it all kind of boots back up into life again. So I actually felt like maybe that's what we should do as a church. So I shared it with our leaders and we talked about it, but the question came up, how do you shut down and turn things back on again? And I suppose going through my head was quite literally, we stopped meeting and we stopped doing anything for a period of time. So I left it. But then, of course, COVID hit and we shut down and we turned everything off. And as we turned it off, it was quite interesting to meet with people one-to-one in small groups and just hear them say how nice it was to have a breather and how nice it was to sit with one another. And so obviously the question is, what's it look like when we turn it back on again?
One good thing that came out for our little church in Belmont in Perth here, little Aboriginal church, we decided to have a little Facebook page. A couple of people recommended it to me. My chiropractor and Victor Ower. And so another friend and I, on a Saturday we would go down by the river and he would sing a song and give a testimony. I would video him, and I would give about a 3 to 6 minute sermon, just a short sermon, and you could easily upload it and people would listen, I think, to short little sermons because people find it hard to listen to something that's visual. And so that's been going on well for a couple of months now, and it's still going on. We'd like to keep it. We do it on the Saturday morning, upload it by the afternoon, then we'd have it. That would be I would put on a Sunday service. That would be our Sunday service.
And so the benefits have been the people making connection with one another. We've had a team of 12 people that have actually rung around on a regular basis to connect with one another. We've had people going online that have not been online before, who had the opportunity to go into our website and look at the services online. And that's opened up a whole new world for them, and our Bible studies connected in different ways as well, and our prayer group have connected in different ways, and some of that will continue. We will continue to do that into the future. Our service up to Yonga Hill has become a Zoom service, and that's just been an absolute blessing to be able to connect with them that way.
I think really one of the biggest benefits, which Winston Churchill famously said, never waste a good crisis. And so we're not denying that this is a crisis, and we also are aware it's been incredibly tragic globally, of course, and never would want to downplay that. However, the forced lockdowns globally here in Perth and of course around the world, and everything that came with that, really stripped the landscape away, whether people wanted to or not. And I think a lot of people, and even churches collectively, were reminded of just maybe some of the stuff that was on their landscape isn't entirely necessary. So yeah, I think the slowing down, the less things on the landscape, hopefully would cause people to take stock, and as things start to open up, maybe not put so many things back on their landscape and instead prioritize those things that matter. And
I think the churches that will thrive moving forward, it's going to sound simple, but I think it's true. The churches that make disciples. It's not about size, it's not about method and model. If churches make disciples, they will thrive. If churches don't make disciples, they will really struggle to survive in the future church.
Well, I think the future of the church is that it needs to be future-proofed in the sense that it needs to be manoeuvrable for black swan events that it doesn't see coming. So no one at the start of the year was thinking COVID-19 and lockdown and how to do church on Zoom at the same time that you're trying to socially distance from people. And so the church going into the future is going to have to think about events that knock it for six and its plans. So the manoeuvrability aspect is going to be crucial, and I think that's going to say we'll have to break the things down that we're doing and see which are the most exposed to something happening. And part of that's going to be about money, part of that's going to be about volunteer time, part of that's going to be about the size of gatherings you can have and how you get information out to people. So I think that's going to be a crucial aspect to what we do. One of the things I also think is that people are going to opt out of getting back into the busyness of church in the future, not because they don't like church, but they just don't like busyness. And church has tapped into that busyness that the rest of the culture's got, and that's wearing people down.
And the first one had to do with making sure that the connections among us in church were tighter and that nobody fell through the cracks. So the idea of having a phone brigade, people calling up each other, sending letters, or looking for ways by which people would not feel lonely, that had such a great effect on people who said, wow, the church really cares for me. I'm part of this community. The second part has to do with about not making sure that people do not fall through the cracks. It's to make sure that people who are strangers in our country, strangers especially to Western Australia, are not neglected. They're very vulnerable, and we're talking about supporting people who are asylum seekers or refugees, temporary visa holders, and students. We look at this not just as a way of helping other people, but also helping the church realize, members of the church realize, that we do have a mission in the world. I think this work of moving together as a community and serving God by serving people and each other is going to put us a mark on the way of being church in the future. Thank you.
COVID probably has provided a pause, a salah moment for the church, and it's given them an opportunity to reset. But as we discussed, reset not just back to the normal, the old way. There is an opportunity to learn and to grow through this, and to think, okay, what was valuable and what we placed importance and attachments on, we were forced to give up, not through anything else other than a virus, a pandemic that came, And I think the challenge of that now is, what do we learn out of that? We have often said, the church is not the building, the people are the church, and we've said that pre-COVID and proclaimed it, but it became a reality now, and it's interesting that we have to live that, we have to believe that, right? We've been telling people that for years. Now they are.
Yeah, so at Tom Price Baptist Church, through COVID, we have only been doing Zoom. This is now our first week where we'll be doing a service, and we're going to be doing it outdoors. And I was really anxious to want to finish this project. I think art's a great way of expression and communicating to people without words, and wanted to create something which is authentically local, which is the zebra finches in the back, is local to our region. And it's a bird which flocks together. And so as a church, we're a community, we're a flocking community. And we purposely wanted the birds to be flying out. So not flying in, but flying out, because we're a community that are constantly sending people out, both into the local community, but into that broader area. So that's some of the goals that we want to achieve.
So for us in this season of COVID and the pandemic, we have really found that it's been a reset. It's been a change completely of what we've been used to. We had been planning getting out as a church into our community already in a strategic plan that we'd taken months to develop, but had no concept really that there was a digital world that we could be engaged with. And COVID changed our minds because our hand was forced, our doors were closed, and we were committed. We have been committed to keeping a church service running, but have stripped back that the lots of programs and courses and things that we were involved in, so that we could get the gospel, get that essence of the gospel out there again, and just that, focus on that so that we're making disciples and God's word is getting out. And in that we have found that we're reaching a congregation we didn't know we had.
Wow, what a great selection of stories and views. Such diversity there is in the church. I think it's one of the strengths of the church is its diversity and such hopefulness. Just look at these wildflowers here, wildflowers springing up in the desert. There's a sense of hopefulness there, and I think that's what we have for the church into the future. As I've listened to these people talking, I have this sense of us being a church that in the future will be more simple in our approach, more nimble in the way that we can deal with change and address change in the future. Hopefully more engaged with our community and certainly to be more deeply connected to Jesus. Yeah, look, I think there's a great sense of hopefulness, a sense of vision, and I'm really looking forward to what the church is going to do for us in the future. May this time of isolation become something significant for us as we continue to grow together.